Welcome to Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view. Welcome to the show. We got a great show today. Hope you like the the music there. Something a little different today. Happy Halloween, everybody. Uh, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about supply chain issues and inflation and oh, and some more mumbling and bumbling of El Presidente Biden. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about, are we headed towards a recession. Let's get this show going, and let's bring up my co-host all the way from Muskogee, Oklahoma. It is Let's Go Brandon. Welcome.
Hello. How you doing? Yeah, I'm playing. This is the character I'm playing for Halloween. Is Let's Go Brandon. So, and you and I talked a little bit about it before the show, but for those that may not have, hello, Chris Wedgeworth, but for those that may not understand where the Let's Go Brandon comes from, is there was a TikTok guy, and he was in Target, and he went up to customer service and he asked him to page his brother. And he says, yeah, his first name is Lesko. He says, Lesko. Yeah, Lesco. He says, and his last name is Brandon. He said, okay, paging Lesko Brandon. And they got it on video. It was hilarious. I thought, hey, that's I'm going to play Lesko Brandon for Halloween.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, let's welcome our other co-host, all the way from Syracuse, New York. He's Orange Man. Good. Let's welcome Mike Roche.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hello, Mike. How you doing, buddy?
All right, man. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to you. Yeah.
Art's got his Igor haircut going on there, and the whole setup going on. I like that. And sorry I missed your show last night, Art. I was at the Dome at the football game, and I heard you refer to the guys as the Orange Men, which they haven't been called in years. But to me, they'll always be the Orange Men. They changed it to Orange several years ago to be politically correct, which is so stupid.
There, you gotta be kidding me.
Right. But it's, in everyone's heart, they're the Orange Men. It's just ridiculous stuff. It's pointless stuff.
You know what? I mean, it's even seeping into the FAA. Because they're even talking about, and I'm like, I heard about it. It was on one of the other live streams, and they were talking about it, and I just, if I was at that meeting, I would just said, F that.
Well, they brought that up. We talked about them changing to rather than unmanned to unpiloted aircraft. They talked about that 2 months ago. We talked about it 2 months ago on Greg's channel, because I got the notice. I think I actually got a notice from the FAA saying they were doing it. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? It's like, and Mike, I didn't mean to, excuse the fun, but I didn't mean to ghost you last night, but I saw that you said hi to me just as I was getting off, and Judy had fallen, and I had to go in there and help her get up. So, she's the part between the Parkinson's and the stroke, it's really taken a pretty hard effect on her abilities right now.
Right.
Mine is still sharp. She can still chew my ass out with the best of them, but her body is not working like it should right now. So,
well, that's, you got to do it, it's important things, and not easy for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But all this politically correct garbage with the language with the FAA or the universities, or now, Lloyd, you're part of the LGB community.
Mm-hmm. Let's go, Brandon. Yeah, LGB. I saw that comment in a couple places, and people are like, "What? I'm not either." And let's go, Brandon.
At least we get a few alphabets we could use for us.
Yeah, that's right, man. And but I saw this being used, and I thought, man, this is. And believe it or not, they did a poll. Oh,
Art.
Takes art. Yeah. They did a poll, and apparently, Let's Go Brandon and F. Joe Biden is overwhelmingly considered appropriate as a chant at whatever. Not by just
event,
the sporting events or anywhere, even when the president's there. Even the Democrats, about 40% of the Democrats are saying it's appropriate. Not just the Let's Go Brandon, but the F Joe Biden too.
Wow.
Yeah. It's of course it's overwhelmingly the Republicans are like 85%.
Yeah.
But
I want to say hi to Chris there. Right.
Oh yeah.
I see you, Chris. Yeah, you wonder though, with the Democrats, obviously they would have never said F Joe Biden 6 months ago, 8 months ago, but
No.
he's almost like a lame duck at this point. You know what I mean? He's really losing it fast, and I've heard they're already on their side jockeying for who is going to run in 2024 because he just can't, even the way he did before. And then
Right.
nobody likes Harris at all on their
No.
side. So
Yeah,
what do they have?
yeah.
What's their bench?
Yeah, that's
Bernie?
true. They've got a real shallow bench. There's nobody that has any positive charisma.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at what's going on in Virginia. We got a gubernatorial election that's Tuesday,
Yeah.
and the Republican has pulled ahead
Right.
of McAuliffe. Because boy, McAuliffe really stepped on it when he made those comments about parents going to a school board meeting.
Yeah. Well, and I heard that they were talking about, well, if Trump were to show up there, they said, well, this state did not vote for Trump, so that might hurt him. But mind you, the people saying this are the idiots at CNN and PMS, NBC, and places like that. Oh yeah, that'll hurt him, because this state was solidly blue. Well, the more Trump has talked about this election and the Republican nominee, the closer the gap was being filled. The more he talked about it at rallies, all over, the closer. And now he's pulling ahead. So let's just hope they have an honest election system in place. That's the biggest. Hello, Mel. And
Mel.
that's the biggest problem we're going to be facing, not only in 22 but in 24. But I'll say one thing. I can say that right now the Supreme Court as we have it is they really are doing conservative. There was a execution in Oklahoma this week. First one we had since the last of the injections, that when they banned them all. They stopped them all for a while because Mel's going, let's go, Brandon. I'll answer you in a minute, Mel. But but the Supreme Court actually dropped the stay of execution and went ahead and, because it was I don't know, a court of appeals had put it in place at the last minute, and so it went through. The man was executed. First one I think we've executed since like 2015.
Now, wasn't that guy electrocuted?
No. I don't think so, because I don't think we use electrocute, because we use lethal injection. No, it was lethal injection. To hear it described the way he reacted, it sounded like he was electrocuted, but he wasn't. It was lethal injection. They gave him 3 different shots, and it was, Of course, the liberals talked about how terrible it was to watch and blah 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 blah, and everybody. But this guy, I'm sorry, I'm not always a fan of capital punishment. I have mixed feelings about it. I support it because that's what is the thing. But there's times I look at it and say, I wouldn't. We have like 3 or 4 executions coming up in the next couple of months. In 2000, Texas and Oklahoma were going neck and neck on the most executions. And I can't remember. I think we edged them out by 2 executions. We did like
Well,
15 executions in 1 year.
yeah.
But
Well,
this guy deserved to die. I mean, he had been in there for some major robbery. He had like a 160-year sentence. He's been in there for 20 years. The person that he killed her there. she was one of the cooks serving food in the penitentiary dining room. And he came through. He didn't like what she served him or something. He was mad about his food and blamed her for it and said he'd get her. And then after that was all over, he hid in a closet, and he managed to hide into a closet, and he drug her in and he stabbed her somewhere like 24 times with a shank. And they actually, she yelled out for help. They actually caught him while he was still stabbing her.
No.
And of course, he punctured the aorta and she died. So
yeah.
this guy, she had been.
They should have just shot him right on the spot.
I mean, yeah, I know. Just put him. Instead, we spent Oklahoma taxpayer money for 11 years. This son of a bitch, this son of a gun was on death row, and it was millions of dollars wasted on his life. They should have just let him starve to death, lock him up in a cage, forget about it. Like maybe like they did back in the old Versailles, the old French prisons, just lock them up, throw them away, and don't even feed them. Let them go in there once every 6 months, scrape the bodies out, clean up the mess, throw somebody else in there. Yeah.
I know I kind of have mixed feelings about the death penalty too. I mean, in principle, I'm all for it. If we absolutely know we have somebody who is guilty of a heinous crime, fry him. But at the same time, the way our society's gone,
let me step back for a minute. I'll be right back.
So much more. It costs a fortune, with the appeals and everything that go on of the court costs and everything. Right. From what I understand, it can be around, $15 to $20 million spent on that, where, housing the person in a hellhole would be a hell of a lot cheaper. And then you also have the possibility of, a person wrongly convicted and that kind of thing. It's usually not. I mean, 99% of the time. Yeah. But, it's a kind of thing where I'm all for it, but is it practical? It takes 20 years to happen. Yeah. So the person's an old, feeble man by the time he gets executed.
Right.
Or she.
Well, and part of the problem is the appeals process. It's just so long and drawn out. What they need to do is they need to have a separate process. Maybe Court of Appeals that only looks at death penalty cases. And that would speed it up quite a bit. But they don't want to do it because they want to drag it out, because that's more money for the government.
Right. And then, of course, who's going to appoint these judges to the
that's
committee
true.
there, because nowadays, the way judges are ruling in some cases, I mean, look at the Roberts in the Supreme Court. Who would have thought he'd have turned out the way he did?
Yeah.
And some of those guys, they're not predictable. And, you get some leftists in there. Leftists are always predictable. They're always leftist.
Yep.
So.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear, Mel. Well, that makes sense because it's Halloween night, and Mel is going to be busy manning the door for the little rugrats when they come by and trick or treat.
That's always fun to do. I didn't give out candy last year, and I won't be doing it this year either, because there just aren't as many kids in the neighborhood as there used to be. But hopefully that will change. But and after last year with all the nuttiness of violence and stuff, I don't want to be answering the door for
Yeah,
strangers.
well, and I live in an apartment complex, so not a whole lot of kids here either, but
Yeah,
the kids that do live here, they go to a separate event that they go to.
yeah. It's always fun though with the kids. I mean, in the heyday of my neighborhood, was everyone had little kids, and I would know most of the neighbors, and it was just a blast handing out candies to the kids. And when they went from little kids to the teenagers, even later on, never minded them at all either. It's always fun to mess with them, you know.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's um, what is Biden over in Europe still?
I think so. He's isn't he going to Scotland? He was at the Vatican.
Right.
Yeah, great. Two liberals together.
Right. I know that that Pope is he just comes from that South American, socialist tradition.
Well,
It seems
he's
like.
a Jesuit. Jesuits are traditionally, left of center.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's like
in my lifetime, I think he's the worst pope in my lifetime. John Paul II. I mean, he's tops, man.
Right. He was.
I mean, he was all for freedom, and he was against communism. And this guy, he's for socialism.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Paul II stood for something.
Yeah.
And he did that way before he was Pope. During World War II, he would do masses in secret, I guess, in the woods or hidden places when they were forbidden, and also helped, from what I understand, helped Jewish people escape or hide from the German, the Nazis there, because they would have been killed. So the guy was just awesome all the way around.
Yep.
And there were obvious mistakes in the Catholic Church that needed addressing that still probably aren't addressed properly enough.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's stuff that's people come in wolves in sheep's clothing kind of thing, and I don't know. They need to make some changes for sure.
Yeah, they sure do.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into our next topic. We're going to talk about supply chain issues. Now, when Trump was president, the economy was starting to turn around and get going like gangbusters. Biden gets elected. What was the first thing he did? He cut our oil supply. We went from being energy independent to energy dependent. And that's what's caused a ripple effect in the supply chain, because the price of goods go up. So companies are looking for places to cut their costs. And that's why trucks weren't going, ships aren't coming into port. Where you notice how in Florida, the ships are coming into port. No problem down there. It's California, and it's all that West Coast, because it's all controlled by the Longshoremen's Union.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that seems to be a combination of government edicts as well as the unions in cahoots with them, and whatever other incentives there are out there for people just not to work. And what was the thing is, last year, say in the middle of last summer, I don't remember there being ships lined up off the ports. And that was at the height of when COVID was, more out of control. So, what changed? And obviously it's, the government changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of those ships sitting out there floating is, it's a created crisis. And
Mm-hmm.
you wonder how much of this is literally purposeful
Yeah.
in order to go into another election cycle. We got to have a crisis. We can't have things good. And then the government to the rescue.
Mm-hmm. I
So,
remember a couple years ago when Trump passed the tax cut plan, and that got the economy going. And what happened? A lot of these blue states, they got all pissed off and they decided to raise tax because they didn't want those businesses to make money. So they figured a way to take that money that they thought was right for them.
right.
So they purposely damaged their own economy, and I predicted this 2 years ago. And you know what? I was right. They were doing this to drive the president out of office.
Yeah.
And they just happen to have hit, oh, we got a pandemic. Oh, let's use this to our advantage. And Trump screwed it up because he just had a kind of a lackadaisical attitude about it. Because this wasn't something new that never happened like this in the United States. I mean, we've had SARS, we've had MERS, and the Asian flu. We didn't shut down the economy.
Yeah. Well, I think that the death rates and everything. A lot of those, I would love to see the demographics on all those and how many of those were Cuomo type of nursing home blunders and things like that versus the real death rate of the thing. The Chinese use propaganda in every way to exaggerate, to make us fear what was coming. Remember seeing videos of people falling over in the streets like zombies, kind of early on in China, and people, of course, it was probably made up stuff, who just happens to have a video of a guy, keeling over in the streets. It's not how, the Corona thing works. So, they, the only way to get rid of Trump was to ruin the economy.
Yep.
Or to cause a major war. And the economy was humming along so well, there was no way Trump had any chance of losing. Of course, then you throw in cheating as well, which to my dying day, they cheated. I'm sorry, with those rule changes, and I think just stuffing the ballots, literally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And also, Rand Paul, he caught Fauci in a lie. Remember when he was talking, grilled him on gain of functions, and Fauci says, "You don't know what you're talking about."
Right.
Well, Rand Paul is a doctor too, and it turns out he was absolutely right because they were doing gain of functions that we paid for through his organization. And not only that, they were doing gruesome experiments on beagles.
Right.
I mean, it just makes me shiver when I think about what those poor dogs went through.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what was supposed to be achieved by that, what the end goal was supposed to be, but it's insane. And Fauci, the thing is, our amount of funding, I don't think was the issue in terms of the gain of function, but the fact that Fauci knew that we were funding that, and he went into panic mode right off the bat, supposedly with his emails. As soon as it came clear that this thing was out of the lab and was in CYA mode right away, And Fauci, I think, the reason he just can't back down is because if he's not the Saint Fauci anymore, he'll get exposed for contributing to this problem, for the invention of it. He's the Dr. Frankenstein, so to speak, along with the Bat Lady over there in the Communist Party, obviously.
Right. And speaking of China, their economy is doing terrible because that real estate company, it's about to fail, and it's going to start a cascade effect throughout the Chinese economy, and they're not even going to try and prop up that company. And I think that's why the president Xi Jinping, whatever his name is, sounds like somebody dropping a bunch of silverware on the floor. Xi Jinping. Anyway, so that's why he wants to go more back to the Maoist style of communism, because those guys already know that they see the writing on the wall. Their economy is about to tank. I think they want to pull us down with it. And I think, when the coronavirus got going, they go, we screw those Americans. We're going to lie about it. Go ahead,
right.
Lloyd.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say something earlier. I didn't realize I'd muted my mic on my side too. So anyways, yeah, when I went up to Tulsa here a while back, I don't know, 7 months ago, I was up there and met up with a guy because I was buying something for Judy, and I'd seen it on Facebook. Anyways, he was talking, and he was retired auctioneer, and so we got talking about that. But he was talking about the real estate market in the Tulsa area and all over the state of Oklahoma. The company that you just mentioned, the real estate company, they've been coming in and buying up blocks and blocks and blocks of houses. I mean, they've been buying, and they've been investing a lot. And right now the housing market, man, it's great, for the seller, but should they go down, we're going to be right back with another bursted housing bubble, just like we were under, was it
Obama?
Obama. Yeah. I'm trying to think whether it was Obama.
Actually, it was the end of Bush.
Right. End of Bush, and that's when old Dingleberry that was running for president said, "Oh, I'm going to stop it," and blah blah blah, because we can deal with this, and that was a stupid move on his part. But and it's going to have a cascading effect, like you said, if that company goes under, which it's in all likelihood, and real estate is just like everything else. I know I was thinking Clinton, the tech bubble burst while Clinton was president, at the end of '99, and I mean, and anybody with half a brain knew that you just can't pay people, $1 million to go in and build a website about what who's it's in thingamajigs, and flip-floppers, they were coming up with all sorts of stupid, they had these great presentations and convinced people that I can do this for you. They didn't even know what in the hell they were getting. Well, it's kind of, it was this, to me, I was sitting there going, this is the silliest thing I've ever heard. This is ridiculous, because the internet was just new, and
everybody wanted in on whatever it was going to be, but
nobody knew what it was. They just made up. It was like the greatest, it's no offense, Art, but it sounds an awful lot like crypto coin. It really does. I mean, if you follow the pattern, it's an awful lot like that, and if I were you, I'd cash out.
We'll see.
Well, my idea is and this is my approach to gambling, and because I'm not a gambler, but I can make money at it if other people gamble. For example, we go in to a casino, we take in $20 a piece. I blow my $20 because I suck at it. I'm, that machine's going. Judy, on the other hand, she's lucky. So she takes her $20, you get a card, you slip it into into the slot machine, and it's got your $20 up there, and she'll bet. We just play the small machines. She hits, let's say, halfway through, she hits like a $6 or 10. Let's say she hits $10 and she's only spent $5. Okay, so what I do is I cash her card out and go in there, and now I'm $5 ahead because she's only spent $5. That gives us $30 minus $5, $25. I now have $5 in my pocket. I put another $20 on the card, and she plays again, and I keep doing that repetitively. We spent 4 days at the casino hotel. We didn't pay for a meal because all the money we made, we used that. We did have to pay for the room, but that was part of the deal. But we ate in their best restaurant in the casino. They had like 3 of them there. We ate at the best one, and we came home with a $650 profit after 4 days at a casino. And it was simply that knowing that at a certain point you got to cash out. Now, at the end of the night, if she blew through her 20, we went back upstairs and started watching TV.
Yep.
Right.
But that's the way I look at the way you have to do crypto coin. When you are at a profit above your initial investment, you cash out part of that and only play off your initial investment. I mean, literally cash it. I don't mean put it on a ledger sheet. I mean, get your damn cash in gold, silver, paper money, whatever it is. That's the way you do it. Because cryptocurrency is going to be the next tech bubble.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just logic. I mean, to me, it's simple logic, and I'm a simple man. But yeah, that's what. And going back to the Chinese, this is what's going to happen with when you let the Chinese invest so heavily into real estate, and you got a premier that wants to go back to the Maoist days. The handwriting's on the wall on that one.
Yep.
Right.
Anyways.
Oh, you guys remember there's a real estate website called Zillow? Have you heard of those guys?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you remember a few years back they said, no, we're not in the real estate business. We're just helping people find homes and stuff.
Right.
Guess what? Just recently they teamed up with an organization called Blackstone, and they're the ones that are buying up properties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
So
watch that company.
Behind so much that is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the Chinese have got other problems too. I mean, the demographic problems with their aging population, and also they've had weather storm issues, flooding on a massive scale, electrical problems with rolling blackouts.
Like yep.
Yeah.
And now the the thing about China is they've got this window now of Xi Jinping. Is he a kind of person who wants to evade risk, or is he, does he strike now and say, well, the United States has no leader, the emperor has no clothes on. Do we invade Taiwan now and take a certain death toll from it, but end up with Taiwan? Or do they just, implode like they did with previous dynasties even,
And their population is going to be in a quick decline because of the one kid rule, and they had selective abortions where they were aborting female fetuses, and they've got too many men, so they're in a hurt. They're in the next several decades, their population is going to start declining over there.
And they had forced abortions too, because they were that started back in the 70s. They started doing that. I think it was while Mao was still alive, and I mean, there's probably young people. I don't know about a lot of the people that follow this show, but
hey, Steve Mack.
Steve. And there's a lot of younger people that probably don't even know who the hell Mao is. I mean, there's generations, but we all know who he is. I mean, Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong.
Yeah.
Wow, there's an
There's a name you
that,
don't hear very.
yeah,
That's showing my age. Chiang Kai-shek. Yeah.
that's World War
Right.
II era,
Well,
Right.
yeah, yeah, and
and he
the
was the
what was it?
leader of Taiwan when they
Well,
escaped to.
he was the leader of China
Yep,
until
he
I mean
was.
he'd actually forced Mao out at one point. You know, Mao came in and Mao was coming in. He forced him out, and then there was
Yep.
this 600-mile march through China that Mao and his army did and took back, and Chiang Kai-shek had to flee to Taiwan, and that's why because actually he didn't flee to Taiwan.
Oh,
He
where'd
went
he
to
go?
Formosa. He went to
Oh,
Formosa.
that's right. It was called Form. And
Formosa.
did you know
Formosa.
that Formosa was under control of Japan? It was a they were going to annex Formosa, and it
Yeah,
would become a new prefecture of Japan.
Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I know. These are names that this is back. They are names I remember as a kid because I don't know why I even paid
yeah,
attention
same
to this
here.
crap. But yeah, from because I still have I may still have no. I think I got rid of it. I got a new one. I had a globe that had Formosa. It was one my grandfather when he passed away they gave to me, and it had Formosa rather than Taiwan on the map.
Right.
Or
Hmm.
on the globe, and it's like so. And of course, all the maps that I had in grade school still had it listed as Formosa, even though it was
Yeah.
Taiwan.
You
Right.
probably had East Germany and West Germany.
Yeah, well, I had some. I had some that were older than that. I had one. I think that globe I had was actually during World War II, so it was still Germany.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
You
Germany.
know,
Wow.
yeah, and because it didn't split until 1946 was when the Berlin
Yep.
airlift
That's
was.
right.
46,
Well,
yeah.
actually, it's 48
Was it
because
48?
that's
Yes,
when we had
48.
the Berlin
Berlin airlift.
airlift.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
when they split East
Yeah,
Germany
but
and West Germany.
West Germany. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, and these
Yeah.
young people
Welcome
don't know
to
anything about this.
Arts
Hello, Okie
Place
Tom.
History Channel.
Hey, history is part of politics because
Oh,
if
Yeah,
we don't
that's true.
discuss
That's true.
history, if we don't talk about history, we will repeat the history, and
Yeah.
that's politically a bad thing.
right.
Well,
It's
there's a
definitely a
couple of
predicament.
history channels that I follow. Number one, the History Guy,
Oh yeah,
Lance.
yeah,
Uh, that guy
yeah.
just broke 1 million subscribers.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
I started following him when he was like 10,000.
Wow, you must have been following him way back when.
Oh yeah, I've been following him for a long time. A long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
The other
And
channel that I follow is Time Ghost History, and
right,
they've
that's another
got
good channel.
several programs. The first one I started watching was The Great War,
The Great
because
War. Yeah.
at the time, I mean, from 2014 on up to 2019, they followed day by day what was going on in World War One. I learned so much about that war uh, watching that channel. And then they had another channel called In Between Two Wars, where they talk about, from
Right.
1919 to 1939.
39. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was. And then they've got another one, War on Humanity, and they talk about the Holocaust, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they've got some really good programming. Right now, they're they're October of 1942, so they're talking
Right.
about the Battle of Stalingrad and
Right.
Guadalcanal.
Guadalcanal. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. They. I watched. Judy and I hadn't seen it in years, and we watched PT 109. We may have discussed this on my show Monday, and when we talked about it. But
Right.
with
Cliff
Cliff
Robertson.
Robertson. Yeah, Cliff
Yeah.
Robertson. That's just so naturally. I'm one of those idiots that I watched the movie, but I'm reading on IMDb to see what things, and then I start going over to the history timeline to, start checking that the Marines that they went in to rescue, and they said, well, we've got enough, I got enough gas to get there, but we may need a tow home. He says, well, yes, I can give you a tow home. He says, that's the best I can do. Well, that actually didn't happen on the 109. That actually happened on PT 59, which was his second boat. And John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy, did approve Cliff Robertson to play his part. And he also, they discussed, he was involved with some of the movie making. He also told him, he says, don't try to use my Harvard accent, Harvard. Yeah. He says, don't try that. He says, use your voice. He says, you're playing the part, but you don't have to act. You don't have to emulate me. And so he approved him for not using. That's the only time he uses that is when he says Harvard, or however they say. Hell, I can't even say it. In that one shot, that's the only time he ever even tried to do a Boston accent, and it was approved. But that Marine situation, that was the first Marine expeditionary, I think, is who they went to pick up. And there's a guy, he's sitting there. You see him on the beach there as they're trying to get back and get out to the boats or get onto the craft to get out of there, because they had I forgot what those craft are called, ducks or whatever they were using, the amphibious. They had those amphibious deployment
boats.
Yes, that's it. Anyways, they were trying to get on those, and the 109 was giving them cover. And there's a Marine on the beach who sets his grenade launcher down and starts lobbing them. My uncle was there when that happened.
Oh wow!
He was one of those, and he was in charge of. He had a squad, and that's what they did. They were in charge of the grenade launchers and doing all that. So I watched that, and I heard something when they mentioned it. It triggered a memory of my uncle that he told me, who passed away in 2001, I think 2001, 2002. I can't remember now. A few years after my mother did, and now my uncle had gone in the Marines when he was 16. My grandfather signed a thing saying he was 18 and lied about his age, and he'd actually been in 4 years before the war started. So.
Wow.
But that's one of those things, but but that's why history is so important, watching these things and understanding how these wars came about, and what created it. But and people don't understand, I remember as a kid going into our school library, and they had these machines that had endless loops. You plug them in and you look through a viewer, and it was a lighted machine.
You mean microfiche?
It wasn't the microfiche. No, I mean, this was actual videotape. Microfiche is just slide. It's just, it's just snapshots. No, this was actual live footage. Oh. And it was an 8mm, little thin 8mm, and it was on an endless loop. It was a cartridge. You plugged it in, flipped on the switch, and the light came on, and then you sat there, and it had a hand crank, and you cranked it and watched which was funny because you could make things go backwards and stuff.
Right.
They had footage. They had actual footage that was taken at the Jewish concentration camps when they first relieved those, or when they first got in there. They showed the stacks of the bodies. They showed they showed all that stuff, Hound of the Baskervilles at my house. There we go. And they also showed the prisoner of war camps out of Japan. Now, see, none of these kids, they the Holocaust really didn't happen. That's just all political. I saw the friggin' footage, and this was only, less than 20 years after the war. Let's see. Yeah, close to it. 22 years after the end. Yeah, 65. Yeah, I had to stop and think, but yeah, it was about 1965.
Do you guys remember this documentary series? It was either the late 60s, early 70s. It was out called The World at War. And
yes,
it was a terrific World War II documentary series. And it's still out there to be found.
I think it was a Time Life production, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
back when Time Life when Time Life was actually a decent magazine.
Right.
Yeah. It's either Time Life or Look, which was another good.
Oh yeah, that was another one. Yeah.
Yeah, they
know.
did a lot of great World War II coverage too. So,
Mhm.
Of course, we didn't come from that pampered generation, so even at very young ages, we were exposed to concentration camp
oh yeah,
footage,
yeah,
and saw
yeah,
it, and didn't become callous to it. I mean, whenever I still see it, it's I suppose more it affects me more now than it did when I was a kid,
Yeah.
because
yeah,
I understand more the humanity of it, or inhumanity of
Mhm.
it. But
yeah,
that those things are available now. When I go to History Channel or whatever, the documentaries are irritating because there's so much, just
sugarcoating.
yeah, sugarcoating, and also they're just trying to be cute with the production value and putting
Yeah,
graphics on the screen like it's a computer shot, and it's like, just tell us the thing and show us the footage. That's all we need to know, because it's a lot there, and
yeah.
and if
The
anyone
Japanese.
hasn't seen The World at War, look it up.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
that's an excellent series. Yeah, and of course, with me seeing the Japanese POWs and how that was done, the uh, uh, the freeing of the concentration camps, that was doubly important to me because I have an uncle. My dad's brother was at Bataan. He was there at
Right.
the fall of Corregidor. He was there, and he's a survivor. He was a survivor
Wow.
of the march, of the
March,
Bataan
wow.
Death March. Yeah,
Mhm.
he was. And I remember, uh, I remember meeting him and knowing him. I got to know, him. He's actually just a fun guy.
Yeah.
But he went through an awful lot. And the first time I met him, I think I was 12, and he says, "Come walking up, and says, 'Do you know who I am?' I said, 'Well, you look so much like my dad. You can only be my Uncle Jake.'" And then a lot of the guys that were in that were from the New Mexico National Guard.
Wow.
That's where, and they actually have a museum in New Mexico, remembering the veterans of World War II. And there's
Mhm.
actually a theater about the Bataan Death March. It's called the Jake Mendenhall Theater. In that, it's named after my uncle.
Huh.
Sponsored
There
by
was
some of their
a
family members. Yeah,
famous Filipino that was in the Bataan Death March,
yeah,
and he later escaped the
yes,
prison. He was, and he later became president of the Philippines. That was Ferdinand Marcos.
Marcos.
Ferdinand Marcos. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Well,
And
So he
did
deserved
you
it.
know he was a representative in the legislature prior to World War II? And
really.
then
Yeah,
after the war, he got back into politics, and and we know what happened in the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
60s when he was elected, and it was during Vietnam, and he took over because the communists were really close to overthrowing the government there in the Philippines,
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
had the Vietnam War going on, and he took control of the country. And and then when he got sick, that's when he pretty much abdicated and left for Hawaii, and spent the rest of his years in Hawaii. And now his
yeah.
grandson is a candidate for president,
Oh, really? Yeah.
Bonbon Marcos.
Wow. Jeez.
Sounds like some sort of candy,
Yeah.
bonbon.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. But
But
yeah, these kids don't know about any of this stuff. And I was fortunate that, this is in Denver or Westminster there. And I was fortunate we had a school that was very, stayed on top of things. Like you said, we weren't jaded to the whole uh,
Right.
things now. And as I said, having an uncle that it was a Bataan Death March survivor. I mean, I grew up hearing about that, and the stories that were told. They told us those stories. We weren't, like you said, the pampered generation. They told us the stories about how bad things were.
Right.
I mean, they didn't. The veterans didn't talk about, my dad, and my uncles. They didn't talk a lot about it. There were certain little instances. I have an older cousin. He's, I don't know, 86, 87 now, and he was in the Oklahoma National Guard, and he was in for his 20 and blah blah blah. And he loved history, but he loved it from his point of view. And after my dad passed away, he was over there, and my mom's brother came in for it, and he's sitting there telling these stories. And that was the first time I heard my uncle actually tell, and he told about, the Battle of Guadalcanal and the Battle of Midway. Yeah, he told that, and because he needed to correct my cousin. It's my cousin on my dad's side, and this is my uncle. he needed to correct him. He says, well, he said, Pete, you got a little bit of that history wrong. And he said, oh, no, well, let me explain a few things that are wrong. First off, and the reason I can tell you this is because I was there. And none of what you said, and which we all loved it because my cousin's a loudmouth. He's a bigger loudmouth than I am. It was fun to see him get put in his place.
All right, guys, let's get on to our next topic. We're going to talk about inflation. So, inflation rate went up just under 6%. And I think part of it is because of the supply issues, and the price of oil has gone up because now we got a president that's going over to Saudi Arabia and to Russia, begging them to increase production. Yeah. And they're like going, oh, hey, you hear this guy?
Yeah.
How about listen to this guy? Yeah. All right. You know what? We're going to screw those Americans. We're going to.
10 months ago, we were completely independent of foreign oil.
Yeah. Yep. Right. That's right.
Mm-hmm. And we're going into heating season too.
Yep. That's right.
So demand is going to go way up.
And I heard him say, he says, well, I could hit our oil reserves, but that's just going to help for just a little bit. What's it going to do? Drop it maybe a couple pennies a gallon on gasoline? What's the point? He says, just deal with it.
Yeah. Hey, how about getting rid of some of the regulations, and hey, how about finish that pipeline and allowing some of these companies, oil companies, to drill in public areas. It's not like they're going out there and they're tearing up the place, because these oil companies, they do a pretty darn good job. They could put a platform in and nobody would know about it because they're so quiet, and they could do what's called horizontal drilling, where they could be like miles away and drill,
right,
and then they don't want them to frack anymore.
Yeah.
And
Biden just do a lot to help the situation just as quickly as he created the situation. I mean, with the stroke of a pen, he canceled the pipeline, and some of the Alaskan oil research up there. He could quickly reverse that, and prices would drop immediately based on the futures and things like that.
Yeah.
But
he won't do it because the environmentalists won't let him do it, because they're a major constituency for the Democrat Party.
He's at that point right now that he is he's a lame duck. He has nothing to lose. The Democrats aren't supporting him anymore. They're not, he's not running it, and he I wished he'd have a real lucid moment at one point that I'm no longer in charge of this thing, but I can do something for this country and really do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Biden and Trudeau both wanted to cancel the Keystone Pipeline.
And
like a meeting
Trudeau
of the mind.
won re-election.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
Well,
that's
look at
That's
California.
because you got
Newsom
those
wins,
big cities like Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Quebec City. Those are the major population centers.
you know what
And
I'd
they're
love
the
to.
ones that pretty much decide who's going to be premier of Canada.
You know, they talk about getting rid of the electoral college, and I'm not for that. But I think of something a little more fair. Each county in every state gets one electoral vote.
Each county?
Each county.
Wow.
That means the little bitty counties that have 3 people in them have the same voting power as the big cities like Tulsa County that has over 1 million people in them.
You know how many counties there are in Colorado?
I have no clue, but it wouldn't matter. I think each
65.
65 electoral votes, and how
You
many of
know
them
how
would
many
go?
counties there are in Wyoming?
How many?
I think 4 or 5.
Well, that's true. It wouldn't be fair statewide, but we're talking county by county, you know,
Right.
and because if the counties that have, you know, right now they're doing it by the most votes, you know, and that precinct of
Yeah,
that county.
each state
You
is
know,
a
each state is
independent. Yeah,
so
we
this
got
would
51 elections for president.
right in this case because if you look county for county across the map
Oh,
of
I
the last
know.
2 elections,
Republicans would hold on
Republicans won
for
it.
a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah. That's why I say let's go to each county. You know,
How
if you
about
want,
repeal the 17th Amendment? Anybody know what that is?
I can't remember now. I probably did, but
Popular vote of senators.
Oh, okay.
okay, yeah,
Because
yeah.
where before it was the state legislature that appointed the senators.
Right.
And the reason they did that
You're right, Okie Tom.
is then the senators were more beholden to the states rather than to the federal government like it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Because
in a state like New York, the both chambers of the Assembly and the Senate are blue, and
yeah,
New York City is where all the population is really. I mean, it's massive down there
And
compared to upstate.
there is a perfect example of where my county by county voting would help New York, you know?
mhm.
Yeah.
Because you're talking how many counties versus how many counties are there in New York City area in the metroplex?
Right
There's
on.
what, maybe 4 or 5 counties at best, you know. I don't know if the 5 boroughs count as counties or if they're just I don't know. I don't understand the
Right.
borough system, but you know, let's say there's 3 or 4 counties that cover the New York metroplex. Okay, then you've got all the counties like where you live at, the county you live in, the county next to you, all the rural farm country counties. They are equally represented as the those idiots in New York City. You know,
And I'm in like a purple county.
Right.
You know, we're in the middle of the state, and there is a city, you know, medium-sized city. But when you get up into the North Country and stuff, where like everybody's got a gun, that was Trump country last year.
And even you know, and you're going to have a little bit of balancing there, like you're in a purple county. Okay, so one year, you know, one election cycle, you guys may go red. The next election cycle, you know, because we're not discounting any of the votes. Every vote would count. You know, if there's you know, if there's, let's say there's only 300 people in your whole damn county, well, all 300 of you can decide whether you are going to vote Republican, you know, but you have 51% vote for, let's say, Trump again if he runs again, and 49% vote. Well, you're going to be a red county. You're going to have one electoral vote that's going to go in and count. and you get enough of those kind of, I can see this, and it, to me, that's probably the, I've thought about this for a long time. What's the fairest way to do this? That's it right there.
But if they were to touch the electoral college right now,
oh yeah, they destroy it. They would destroy it. It'd be the end of it. Yeah. I can remember hearing the same bitch from the Republicans about let's get rid of the electoral college under Bill Clinton. How many times were, was it Bill Clinton? No, it was Obama. I think it was Obama. We talked about, he should have never won with his electoral. I've heard the same argument on both sides. That's why I think a county by county, and to hell with having to, just, and the other thing is we should go back to the way it was in the beginning. The person that comes in second is the vice president. Into conversation.
Right. This running as a ticket thing.
Because Adams was the vice president under Washington. Then when Adams beat Jefferson was the vice president under Adams. And those two hated each other. Yeah. What was so funny is when Adams was dying, he says, that damn Jefferson's going to outlive me. And it turned out Jefferson had died just an hour before him. Those were John Adams' last words. That damn Jefferson's going to outlive me. They both died on the exact same day within hours of each other. July 4th. That's one of the most ironic things you could ever, that could ever happen, is that two of the founding fathers of our country who disliked each other, both dying. Yeah, I mean, they had a hatred that goes, they could have had their own civil war if they'd wanted, but it's funny. I think that's ironic. That's an ironic. There again, history is important.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've done a little over an hour, and boy, we covered more than the topics that I had written.
My apologies.
Right.
Well, that's the nice thing about having this show with three gimp hosts. That we each bring something to the show to make it bigger show than it is.
I always love the shows when Mike's on because I've got sort of the old fart point of view and some of my recollections, but Mike, you're usually you're always spot on your comments when you really are very astute at understanding modern politics, and your observations are bar none some of the best around. And Art, you're the Toastmaster of this circus that we have, and you have the talking points, but you allow us to bring in our own, and that's to me is what makes this is the perfect balance on this show as far as I'm concerned. This the three of us. We all play well off of each other,
Right. But you're the
Any last comments, Mike?
No, I mean we certainly went off the rails a little bit on our topic, but who doesn't want to talk about Chiang Kai-shek? It's what I'm going to be for Halloween. But no, just great to be here again, guys, and and enjoy the rest of the day. Halloween, it's it feels much more normal this year, thank God, even though we got a nutty political situation. But, at least the kids are able to get out and do things. And, things like going to ball games and all that are back. And life is good. And let's hope we can get things straightened out coming up in the next couple of election cycles.
Right. And Lloyd, any last words?
Well, no, like I said, I appreciate Mike being here. I appreciate being on here. I always enjoy this show. This is one I hate to miss. And you're right, Mike. We are getting back to normal. quick example. We went to the doctor the other day. Every time we've gone in there since this crap started, we wear our own mask, but every time we go there, they hand us a paper mask. We have to have their paper mask on. And of course I always bitched that, hey, why am I wearing Chinese made masks? These are all, I said, in the box it says made in China.
Right.
And I saw a difference now. Everybody was wearing their own personal mask. They weren't handing out the paper ones unless you needed one. Even our doctor, he had on a rubber skull cap type thing and his gloves. He had on his glasses. He was no longer wearing his face protection. He was, he says it's starting to move. He says, one last thing, don't go in the hospital within the next 2 months, because those that have not been vaccinated are probably going to end up in the hospital, and you'll have hell trying to get in and out of the hospital or getting service. So he said, I recommend try not to go in the hospital in the next 2 months. After that, you're good to go. So those are my last words, and thanks for having me, Art.
All right. Hey, thanks everybody in the chat. Chris Wedgeworth, Steve Mack, Tom, Okie Tom, and who else did I see there?
Mel was
Mel was in for a short bit, and Mike, the other Mike from Texas. So thank you all for coming to the show, and you have a great no show next week. I will be at Spin Up, so we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you very much for coming. God bless you, and have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.